All right. Good morning. Look at this room. This is so wonderful. And especially at this time of year, who was it who said to me this morning, it's been 2 years. Last year, this event was virtual. And the year before, we had it in a similar location, but it's been way too long to see you all in 3D. I'm Bryna Dash. I'm the Vice President of Anthology's Corporate and Government Business. And I say Anthology based on our recent merger. Blackboard and Anthology merged together. And there's such tremendous benefits of that merger. And we'll share a lot of that with you today. But one of those benefits is our new president, who is also here. And so I'd like to invite Jim Brigadier up. Jim has been such a great... Jim's been such a great advocate since joining the Blackboard Anthology family together of the government corporate business that we have enjoyed for a long period of time. And for those of you who don't know Jim's long career in education technology, he is also a Marine. So in very good company in this room, I know. So thank you, Jim, for being here and for joining us and traveling in from Texas.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Bryna. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Somebody's just waking up. I heard the alarm, so good morning to that person especially. So welcome to the Government Summit. Who's here for the first time? I am. All right. Wow. Who's not here for the first time? Okay, so maybe about half and half, maybe a little bit less. So we will talk a little bit about the merger, but for you, it's business as usual right now. There's going to be more solutions coming your way, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So I am a Marine. I'm not active duty. I'm not in the reserves, but some of you know once a Marine, always a Marine, right? So I will say in the 8 years I was in, I went to 9 different training events or courses. The Marine Corps likes to pride itself to be like warrior spirit, win battles, and train. It takes an ecosystem to win, right? It just doesn't take the Marine Corps. It takes a lot of different entities and units that pull together. Same thing with training. We like to be nimble in the Marine Corps, but there's a bigger ecosystem out there. So of the 9 courses I took, 6 of them were not Marine Corps driven. Things like I'm an intelligence officer, and I went through the intelligence course that was Navy driven, or Army Airborne and Ranger, or anti-terrorism course with the Air Force. Takes an ecosystem to really win battles, which is what the military's purpose is. And I can think of no better purpose for you all coming from the civilian, DOD, state and local governments, supporting your communities, federal. There's nothing greater. And you have to have that passion, that why, and why you wake up every morning to support that learner. So back to my day in the Marine Corps, it takes an ecosystem to do it. That's very similar. If you think about that mindset, why Anthology and Blackboard merged. Anthology, by definition, most of you know, because you think about poetry or maybe music, it's a collection of the best. And our ownership, which is PE-driven, private equity-driven, feels like, and they're the 4th largest PE firm in the U.S., feel like merging 2 great companies together, the best of the best, is really bringing together the full record of the student or the learner. Career learners, when you look at the student information system, which I know doesn't apply here to everybody, the ERP, the CRM, and of course the LMS, all those 3-letter acronyms we like to use in ed tech. Bringing all that together gives us a viewpoint of the learner on how we can deliver content to them through prescriptive analytics that resonates with them. And it takes that ecosystem. So Blackboard, great company, Anthology, great company, merging together to form something even better, the best of the best. That's why we came together. And it's the first time this has ever been done. And right out of the gate, our PE firm, Veritas Capital, committed immediately in the first year $40 million. That's a lot in our world to functionally enhance the Learn LMS, and as well as the student information system. So about 75% more towards the LMS. That's exactly what we're doing over the course of the year. So you're going to see a lot more driven effort out of the LMS in the coming year, which is great. We're also working on tight integration between the solutions. And so there might be something that applies that helps you support the career learner. And the career learning is what we're all focused on, whether you're getting stackable credentials, micro degrees, certificates, diplomas, all those things that we're all focused on is what we all wake up every morning and passionately support. For us, it's we're an enabling company behind the scenes. For you, you're front and center, and that really means a lot. And so we're going full bore into this on the government side. That's my passion. A company's passion is learning and supporting that learner-centric model. For me personally, I don't see a greater calling to wake up every morning knowing that you're making a difference in your communities, in the state, the federal government, and all the things that you support to help people succeed in life and help people promote learning and promote acceleration of career paths. We've seen lives change because of education, and that's what you're bringing, whether again it's retraining or content. We're trying to get better at that. We want to corner the market in that space. That's why we're here together. That's why we're all here in this room, to learn more off our peers, to learn more out of the company, so we can have more of a driven learner-centric model and bring more content to what we do and deliver. So thank you for doing what you do on a daily basis, and thanks for being here. And now I'm going to introduce Stephanie Niner and Fire Chief Mirabli. Did I get that? All right, from Prince William County with Quantico, so Northern Virginia. So you're going to come up here, and I know you've got interactive session together. So come on up, folks. Welcome. Let's give them a hand. Stephanie, I'm going to hand you the mic. Thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you throughout the day. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Niner. Jim talked about the ecosystem, and I've run our indirect ecosystem here for the Business and Government Organization under Bryna Dash. And I'd like to take a moment to thank our partners who are sponsoring this event today as well. So if you get a chance, please stop by and say hi to them. DLT Solutions and 4 Inc. Thank you. Chief, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Is your mic on? Okay. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your department.
Sure. My name is Jim Mirabli. I am the training battalion chief in Prince William County. For those of you that may be from out of the area, Prince William County is a suburb of DC, about 35 miles southwest. It contains about 500,000 residents. The department itself is a combination fire and rescue system, so it contains career and volunteer members. It is approximately 1,300 uniform force plus support staff. And the department responds to about 50,000 calls for service a year.
Great, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've handled training over the past time that you've been with the department?
Sure. So training over the years. So this is, for me, this is actually my 25th career year. I started in the fire service about 30 years ago. Training had always been, and for those of you that may be more familiar with a military setting, it's very similar, right? It's paramilitary organization, so training, basic training especially, it was very traditional, very dogmatic, very didactic, and then included, of course, skill enhancement, skill development sort of scenarios. And that's, of course, how we operated for years and years and years. The challenges with that, of course, come right around 9/11, especially here in the DC area. The fire service sort of nationwide, but I think the impetus for this kind of came from this region, has adopted more of a motto of an all hazards emergency response organization. And what that includes is sort of really almost everything that isn't law enforcement, whatever that is. And so training for that becomes more of a challenge in that traditional sense.
Great. So adopting a digital platform, how did that improve and help your stance on your training and what you were delivering?
It's a huge win for us. So I suspect that any of my government partners out there, federal, state, local, all share the same challenges with resources. And so what I just spoke about, this post 9/11 all hazards training environment, becomes more of a challenge with the same set of resources. How do you deliver more and more training in a diverse set of subjects to your workforce with the same resources. So the ability to layer on synchronous, asynchronous, built training has really allowed us to, as the old saying goes, get more bang for the buck, so to say. It really has allowed us to stay up with the times when, in a traditional sense, I don't think we could have as easily.
Right. So I imagine managing hundreds of civilian and uniformed personnel in your department is cumbersome when it comes to training. Tell me a little bit about how you're managing their training records, a little bit about your approach to registration and certificates.
It's a perfect question for us right now. So our current answer is a little bit antiquated. We currently use an Access database that manually extracts information out of Learn and ports it over into the database. However, the good news for us right now is that we are actively working with the Blackboard team to implement the SIS component. And I truly see a much brighter future for us with point of service style access for those 1,300 people.
Great. So what type of training courses are you running in Blackboard?
Actually, the entire gambit of courses run through Blackboard for us. So when we talk about fire and emergency medical service training, we run everything from our basic recruit school through Blackboard to our accredited paramedic program through Blackboard. All of our career development programs run through Blackboard currently. And even including the prerequisite courses that we require run through Blackboard right now.
That's great. Are there any third-party courses that are running through it?
Yeah, so a perfect example, one of our prerequisite courses is the stress first aid course that FEMA offers. So the learner accesses Blackboard, then ports over to the FEMA website, consumes the course, and then uploads their certificate back into Blackboard for us.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about how the training supports career progression.
For us, it has been a huge benefit exactly this way. Fire departments, career fire departments especially, many operate on some sort of a shift work system. For us, it is a 3-platoon shift, A, B, and C. And it can be a challenge at times to get the instructors that we need for all of the courses that we deliver. So back to the more bang for your buck mindset. Blackboard offers us the opportunity to deliver some of those career development classes synchronously and asynchronously. So as some of the members can't participate because they're on shift, they absolutely have the opportunity to consume the class on their off time or at a different time and make up the coursework that way.
That's great. So I know that most of your folks during the pandemic didn't work from home, but tell me how having a digital training platform helped you progress through the pandemic and affected you all.
So just like everybody, of course, the pandemic hit everybody pretty hard. The fire service, public safety, government itself can't necessarily stop. We're in a place like most public safety organizations, certainly fire departments nationwide, where sort of replenishing the troops is important for us, no more critically than during the pandemic as well. So we absolutely had to keep recruit schools going. We had to keep our training programs going. And fortunately, thanks to Blackboard, we were able to do that with both Blackboard, Learn, and Collaborate. We already had a model prior to that. Our volunteer firefighter program several years ago had adopted to a hybrid learning model. to make that more accessible to the volunteers, which many of you may or may not know. It's been a tremendous challenge over the years to get volunteer firefighters across the country. So this makes it a little more accessible for them, where a good portion of their course is online. What that allowed us to do during the pandemic was take that model and sort of morph a lot of quarantine days into actual productive days.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about what the future looks like for you, your training programs, how you're evolving your training with your department.
I think the key to that is every bit of what I said earlier, that it is about making the learning environment as holistic as possible and as integrated as possible for us, so that it is far more streamlined than fractured, so to say. One of the challenges that, of course, we have is this continuum of education that we've kind of already talked about, where you start in your infancy as a recruit and then continue on through your career. And there's a lot of manual process, a lot of paperwork, a lot of that sort of inefficiency. And so the future to me is continuing the high level of training and the depth and breadth of training that we have, but making it as seamless and as efficient as possible.
That's great. So if you could leave the audience with one piece of advice and what you see as a necessity for training, what would that be?
Understand the system, understand what system it is you're desiring to get to, putting the homework into understanding that, and then supporting it. Those in the process of the 2.5 years that I've been back in training, and actually developing the relationship with Blackboard, I can say that is exactly where the road has led me. That doing the research to understand what it is we need and understand how to support that once you implement it is incredibly important.
That's great. Do you see training playing a role with your new recruits in recruiting into the department? The online training aspect versus the legacy type of training with new recruits coming in?
So I think an easy to answer to that actually is absolutely yes. Mm-hmm. And here's a perfect recent example. We were able to early hire almost a dozen people. And even though they were remote from the academy, they were able to consume a lot of those prerequisite courses via Blackboard before they even stepped foot in the academy. So that again, just helped with the efficiency of.
Great. So at this time, I would thank you for joining us here today and sharing your thoughts. I'd like to open up for questions for the audience, for the chief.
Russ Evans, nice to see you at college. Chief, you talked mostly about training. Chief, you've talked mostly about training. Do you see a continuum where you include education as well? And how do you see the difference between training and education for your continuum?
Okay, so just, I suppose, point of clarification, to me, training is everything. So training is continuing education as much, career development just as much. So that all, maybe a little bit of a semantic for the term, but.
I was just curious, do you, for you, do you see a difference between those two things? For me, I see a difference between what I consider training and what I consider education. And maybe for what you do, that there's no distinction. And it sounds like that might be the case.
In my mind, in my world, there is not. But I certainly see it as a continuum for us in particular. In a more traditional sense, maybe if you look at knowledge as training and career experience as education or vice versa. Either way, I see those completely the same for my career.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good morning. I'm Harry Wingo from the National Defense University, and thanks, Chief, for what you do. And on that last
Likewise.
question on continuum, I agree with you. It's a continuum. So training, obviously, you've got recruits. They've been using Blackboard, so they're coming in and they need something they can just do muscle memory, or they know the SOPs that apply across the board. I think when you say on the continuum for education, I would see there. You see new challenges. You have the pandemic. You mentioned that asynchronous became more important. So I think for the leaders coming in and have that role in where you are, education would be how do you accept the unknown? How do you adjust to it? So my question for you is, how do you see where tools Blackboard has, and you have Collaborate Ultra, for example, where you can have a video conference, there's lots of options out there. You've got a deep well of story information. So I'm curious, for the leaders in your organization, how do you do that education or that side of the thing that you said? Are you using it all, for special cases internally? Just a question, you may not, but just wondering if there's something on that side of the continuum for education where, what you learned through the pandemic. Is there something that you maybe want to do in the future with Blackboard?
Wow, that's like the $64,000 question right there. Gosh, how much time do we have? I guess let me give a little bit of a history lesson and then paint the picture of where I think we're going to answer that question. So the use of a learning management system, in particular, the use of Blackboard for us was born out of some of the internal training that we were delivering at our training academy. Really, that came down to our accredited paramedic program, which operates exactly at a collegiate level. And so there was a need there, and we started there as the impetus. It has absolutely become pervasive across everything we deliver internal to the academy, and really now started to stretch beyond that. The pandemic absolutely pushed to the forefront the need for delivering, I'll use the word continuing education, things like that, in a virtual environment, way more. So I think to your question more specifically about leadership, yes, but just to the force in general, a perfect example to answer your question, I think, about 2 years ago, we set out and reimagined and deployed a command competency program within the department. And it's a 2-module program right now where the first module is completely asynchronous on Blackboard. The learner must consume that before they come to the Module 2 section, and the Module 2 section has been reimagined as a yearly continuing education module. So absolutely, but I think the other part to that answer is we're kind of growing into what are the possibilities and how far can we go.
Hey, good morning. My name is Alan Bodel from the Army Sustainment Center of Excellence. My question is kind of following on with the conversation that's going on here. So when you're getting into this space and transitioning into your space, what techniques, what did you use to help reset your faculty, your instructors, your professors, your trainers, and how to deliver that in a new environment? What techniques did you use?
Wow. I suppose the easy answer to that is as simple as this. I'm pretty blessed to have a very innovative staff that was already of that mindset. I think that for many of my programs, the programs that needed it the most were already of that mindset, and I have a staff that was able and willing at a moment's notice to adapt. I'm sure that's probably not the case everywhere, and I just got lucky, I guess. However, I have a staff that's inquisitive enough to also start pushing the boundaries. And I suppose there's plenty of leadership doctrine out there how to guide people toward that if that's not intrinsic, but fortunately, I guess I didn't have to.
Questions? Okay. Well, again, thank you for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
And I think that Nick has something for you.
Thank you. Chief, on behalf of Blackboard and Ecology, we wanted to present you with a certificate of appreciation for all you've done. So thanks so much.